Hey, how you guys doing today? It's Jeremiah Davis, CEO of Business Funding Now, coming to you again with my weekly live. Trying to put out some content. Um, so there's a lot going on in the media right now. I just think we're not ignoring it, but we need to stay focused and stay prayed up. So we're sending prayers to all those involved with the tragedy going on in Minnesota. So just wanted to put that out there. But today I have with me Demeter Wren, CPA, certified public accountant, my accountant, and my cousin. And she has helped me a great deal with my business, getting it structured, getting it organized, taxes. I rely on her a great deal for a lot of things. And there's a lot of new information that we want to get out to the public, especially with the changing things regarding the pandemic, COVID-19, and the SBA loans that small businesses are trying to get. She has been a public accountant for a CPA for 35 years, and she's worked with multi-million-dollar corporations, non-for-profits, charter schools, small businesses. So she has a very wide array of accounting skills to fit most of our needs, whether you be a startup, whether you're a small business with just a sole proprietor, or whether you have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 10 employees. She knows how to get your books right and maximize your deductions, as well as structure your business so you can pay your taxes quarterly or monthly rather than annually and get behind. So we'll have her contact information in the comments, and I'll post it on our page. So if you just want to ask her some questions, you can, I think, go to your website as well and schedule an appointment. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you guys Demeter Wren, CPA. How you doing, cuz?
Hey, Jeremiah. Thank you for having me on this evening. Really happy to be here. There's certainly lots of information out there related to this pandemic and COVID-19 and how it definitely affects your business. And so I'm happy to be here to shed some light on that.
Great. And we actually need more information because there's a lot of disinformation out there. So let's just get right into it. What are some of the things that have changed with the PPP and the EIDL in the last 30 days that you can help us understand better?
Sure. Well, I have to first assume that you understand what the PPP is and the EIDL is. So starting with the brief introduction of that, the PPP is a payroll paycheck protection program. And what that was designed to do is for small businesses who lost revenue, was designed for them to obtain additional funds to pay their employees and keep their employees working. The EIDL is considered the economic injury disaster loan, and that's directly funded through the SBA. The purpose of that loan was to intervene for business revenue that was lost. It also can do the payroll, but you can't double dip, so you can't use the PPP and the EIDL for the same payroll information, but just general business expenses. The biggest difference between the two is that the PPP is administered by local banks, and the maximum loan that you could qualify for is up to $2 million, and the EIDL, I'm sorry, the PPP is up to $10 million and the EIDL is up to $2 million. And the EIDL is administered directly through the Small Business Administration. So there's a lot of confusion out there. Also, there was a lot of changes. One of the first changes was the PPP was designed to be able to pay for payroll. And if you did not have payroll, but you had 1099 employees, the initial guidance said you had those 1099 contractors in there, and that way you would get funded for enough money to cover those. We quickly changed that.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me just
so some of the initial, so some of the initial applications.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify that last part because I had got that question from a few clients, is the 1099 employees count? And I was under the impression previously, like maybe more than 30 days ago, that no, they couldn't count as under that payroll protection, the PPP. But now you're saying they've included 1099 employees or 1099
workers? That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying the initial, you asked me what changed in the last 30 days. The initial guidance was that the 1099 contractors did count, and then they changed that almost immediately.
Okay.
So the 1099 contractors have to do their own PPP application. And the initial guidance pretty much was that it was difficult for the sole proprietors because they don't have a lot of them don't have a paycheck. Well, they've made it easier to define how much the sole proprietor income loss is. So that's the change that has occurred. Yesterday, as recent as yesterday, the PPP, there was a bill that's passed the House, is waiting to pass the Senate, that would expand the time frame from using the PP from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. Because currently you have to have it spent within 8 weeks, and you have to make your initial disbursement within 10 days of receiving it. Also, it changes the forgiveness. In order to get forgiven, currently you have to have at least 75% spent on payroll costs in order for the loan to be forgiven. They're changing that, or proposed changes, to at least 60%. Then finally, if the whole loan has not been forgiven, they're changing the repayment period. And that repayment period is moving from the current 24 weeks to, the current 2 years to 5 years. And it sounds like the House passed this. It doesn't sound like the Senate is going to have any issues with it, but it still has to be formally passed by the Senate. That's the gist of the large changes for the PPP.
So basically making it easier for people to apply and giving, loosening restrictions on how they spend it, the time frame they spend it, and the parts that are not forgiven, the duration of the payback. Is that
exactly? And the deferment as well, because the deferment, I believe it was a 6-month deferment before you have to start paying back, and they're expanding that as well. Now that might be the point where is it going to be 1 year or 2 years? So that might be one of those last minute changes. But either way, it's supposed to make it easier for the small business.
All right. Well, that's excellent. That's good. That's good information. I also understand that you are helping people. I know a lot of people flooded the system and tried to apply initially, and it was just chaos. But you've been helping people apply for both, because it can be a little complicated. Just depends on your knowledge base of how to work the system. But if you got somebody who knows, like yourself, you are still helping people apply for both those loans.
Yes, as a matter of fact, some people believe that the PPP is all used up, but there was a second round of funding, and that those monies are available. The issue is, do you have a banking relationship? If you have a banking relationship, you may be able to get in the head of the line, depending upon your relationship, or depending upon the bank. You're almost better off going to a small business bank. I recently had a client who knew someone at a bank, did not have the banking relationship, but was able to go ahead and apply because they moved some of their accounts there, and they did get the PPP loan. Am I helping them? Yes. I have a lot of people who try to do it themselves. And ultimately they call me and ask me, well, I don't understand this piece, that piece, or I don't understand the documentation that I have to submit. And then once they do submit the appropriate documentation, they're concerned about it being forgiven. And how do you get it forgiven? The EIDL loan, at the last I checked, and I have to check again, but the last I checked, they do have monies available, but they're only giving it agricultural businesses at this juncture. Now, they may expand that after some of it has been spent, but right now it's just, the last time I checked on the SBA website, it was only available to agricultural businesses.
For the EIDL. Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if you applied for the EIDL and you haven't heard anything, but you got that confirmation number, hang tight, because you may get an email out of nowhere saying you were approved. And one of the ways that you'll know that you have an opportunity is if on your credit report you see an inquiry. If there's an inquiry on your credit report as a business owner, then you are in the running of getting that loan, the EIDL.
Okay, well, I got one. I got pre-approval letter, I got the confirmation. Now I'm just waiting for the process, but I think I applied for the PPP and not the EIDL. Memory serves me, but I did get a pre-approval letter. So hey, be honest, I didn't think I was going to get anything. I wouldn't qualify for anything. You know, just one of those people, those business owners that are caught in the middle someplace. But so I'm optimistic. I got the pre-approval email, and most of you guys have seen it, been posting it. You know, SBA, yeah, you know. But when it hits my bank account, then I'll post it.
Yeah, well, just
go ahead.
I was just saying a quick correction. Yours was the EIDL loan.
Oh, see, that's why I got an account, y'all.
Oh.
Because I don't know. I know what I do. I do what I do well, and that's my funding company and my consulting company and my other company. But I'm not an accountant, and so a lot of stuff just get very, very overwhelming. And I often say you don't have to be the expert in everything. You just got to know who is. So this is my expert regarding these things as far as taxes, accounting purposes, even investments, things of that nature. So retirement, you know, as sole proprietors, we got to set ourselves up for retirement as well. So I highly recommend you get an accountant. All right, so let's shift gears and talk about some other just general practices. Now, when I first started, I'm guilty. I used TurboTax. I started, you know, in my first year as a sole proprietor, as a business person. I left the corporate job. I'm like, I can do it myself with TurboTax. I did it 1 year. The next year, I called you. Just elaborate would you recommend a business owner use TurboTax? And if not, why not?
Well, it's real interesting. CPAs hate and love QuickBooks and TurboTax and all those all at the same time. One reason why we hate it is because it's not a true accounting system. And our clients really can mess things up because they market themselves as the general layperson can use it, and there's nothing. There's lots of things we can do ourselves, they say on the commercials. And we do it, and guess what? It's like you might not want to do your own plumbing if you're not a plumber, okay? Now, you might be able to screw a bolt back on, but you just might not want to do that because at the end of the day, that $150 leak may turn into a $15,000 project because you messed it up. And that's what happens a lot with QuickBooks and TurboTaxes and things like that. Because at the end of the day, if you get it wrong, you're calling us because the IRS has questioned you or has a desk audit, or you're calling us because you're owing so much money and you don't understand why you're owing so much. And for us to do it, us being the CPAs, it's going to cost you money because 9 times out of 10, we're going to have to do your accounting first. and then do your taxes. And that's part of the reason why it costs so much money. Now, to your question, who should do it themselves and who shouldn't do it themselves? If you have a really good command of the tax code and of accounting, to knock yourself out, do it yourself if you have time. If you've kept up with your monthly reconciliations for your business bank accounts, if you've done that much, you might have a chance of getting it done correctly. If your business is very, very simple and you don't have multiple businesses, or you don't have multiple investments, or you don't have, if you're not in a business that has specific regulations, then do it yourself. But if you're in a business that has specific regulations, here's what I tell most people: you don't know what you don't know. Many people will not be able to optimize their deductions because they don't know what they're eligible for, because they just don't know. I have helped individuals who have owed $9,000-$10,000 when they've done their preliminary tax return, reduce that to even a refund because of deductions they were not aware that they could take. Does TurboTax ask you as you go along? Yes, but you may not know that something qualifies as that category. So for instance, a casualty loss with the named hurricanes and everything in Florida, many people were able to deduct losses that they weren't aware that they could deduct.
Yeah,
So
well, here in Nashville, tornado recently as well. That affected a lot of businesses. So yeah, didn't even think, never knew. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You have some more you want to add to that?
Well, no, it's basically if you pay somebody to do something in your business, you probably should also be paying for a good CPA and a good attorney, because at the end of the day, they're going to save you money and prevent you from making mistakes that are going to cost you a lot of money. I'll add one more to that. One of my busiest times this year was doing bringing their financial statements up to par, doing their 2017, 2018, and possibly 2019 tax return so that they could apply for the PPP and EID. So I had more businesses, coming out of the woodwork wanting services because they couldn't do it in a hurry and they neglected to do it. So if you find yourself neglecting to do something, neglecting to do your monthly bank recs, you might want to consider paying someone to assist you.
I'm gonna need to upgrade to that plan with you as well. To do my monthly stuff. Anyway, okay, that was great information. I learned something I didn't know. There's a lot of different things that we don't know that could help us, and we can deduct from our taxes as a expense or deduction rather. And see, a question I got was, what advice do you have for small business that doesn't have any income coming in and getting an SBA loan? Now, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer.
Sure. It depends. I have to ask you a couple of questions. One, was this small business in business as of February 15th, 2020? And two, if you were you making money? Making money meaning, did you have revenue, not do you have net income? If you completely do not have revenue right now and you were in business as of February 15th, 2020, then you should be applying for a PPP to as many banks as you can and an EIDL. Understanding, I forgot to say this earlier, is that both of those programs, the first $10,000 can be are grants. So Anything after that, you have to pay or request forgiveness, but the first 10,000 are grants. So what you should be doing is applying for those loans and grants. If you were not in business as of February 15th, 2020, and you want a loan, then what you're going to be looking at is, do you have good credit? Do you have assets to secure a loan? Do you have a business plan? And if you do, your best route is probably going to go, you'll probably need to do an SBA loan. Many people will do, I'm sorry?
So I was just going to kind of recap what you said, but go ahead. Go ahead.
I would say the only other option, many people will maybe mortgage their house or get some small business loan, no, not small business, but get a personal loan and then use that personal loan as equity to put into their business. But in terms of getting business credit right off the bat, if you do not have a business plan and you're a brand new company, you're unlikely to get it.
Right. And that's the common question that I get when people come to me for funding is they want a business loan, but all they have is a business on paper. It's not actually functioning and generating revenue. And then another aspect is the credit. So if you're a startup business and you wasn't in business or making any revenue prior to February, you said 20th or February 15th of this year, February 15th, then you have to look at other resources like a personal loan. And the only thing the February 15th does is make you eligible if you were making money before that date to apply for the PPP or the EIDL. If you don't qualify for that, going for an SBA loan without some type of collateral and good credit is a long shot. Okay, so we have to, and I often tell my clients, well, but to get you here, we got to start here. Sometimes you got to start with a small personal loan to get your business going and generating revenue, and then we can come back and look at some other business funding options. So that's I'm glad we're on the same page. I'm telling people the right thing. Yeah. So okay, and you already answered some of these other questions. The difference between the PPP and the EIDL. What are maybe some of the more details of we got about 10 minutes, details on how to get approved for one of those loans. I mean, you have to have some documentation in place, right? You have to submit your proper paperwork. I'm not sure exactly what type of paperwork, taxes from the last year or two, or I know 2019 they gave us an extension. So yeah, what are some of the basic things that you need to apply and get approved?
So on the PPP, the documentation, there's guidance about the documentation, and what the government tried to do was make it easy for small businesses to obtain the PPP loan. Well, the biggest issue that I've seen a bunch of my clients and other companies have is a lot of people use PEOs, which are the least employee companies, so they don't run their own payroll. They actually pay somebody for that service to do everything. So when it comes to them actually getting the loan and they're documenting payroll, some banks are going, well, you don't run payroll because it's not in your EIN. But most banks, especially the bigger ones, they understand that there are services that are paid for, and if you are not buying that service from that PEO, then that PEO has no income. So it's not the PEO's employees, it really are your employees. So the documentation typically required are your quarterly payroll tax forms. So if you haven't filed your income tax as a business, initially that's okay for most of the banks. but you do have to show you filed your quarterly payroll tax because you're trying to prove that you have employees. If the company that you purchase the employees from has something called a sales report, or because they will file on your behalf, they can provide a letter that says Davis Thorpe and Associates purchased $200,000 of employees from us. Okay, and that will qualify you for that loan. Typically, they're asking in the application whether you filed for bankruptcy, whether you're a felon. And at the initial application, you don't usually have to submit your rent information, that sort of thing. They do require that you prove that you're operating business. So if you're an LLC or a subchapter S Corp, they want to see your organizing documents, the articles of incorporation, or something off the state website to prove that you're a legitimate business. If you're a sole proprietor, they're going to want to see your tax return and or something that shows you have a business license, if a local business license or something like that. So for the PPP, the initial application to obtain the loan mostly has to do with your employees. The bigger question now is, how do I get the loan forgiven? And this is where it is really important to have your CPA properly document this. And the SBA loan forgiveness application is very complicated. It doesn't look complicated, but when you start reading it, and they're asking you, how much did you pay on this, and how much did you pay on that, and what percentage is this? I highly recommend that you get a CPA or someone who does this on a regular basis to assist you in requesting the loan forgiveness. And you might pay a little bit of money for that, more than you did for the application itself.
Okay, so my last question is because, I mean, I know a lot of business owners, and I think most of them do not have an accountant. But just in general, could you give us, say 4 or 5 tips? And if you're looking for an accountant, the things you should look for, so just be honest. There's a lot of people out there that are not, don't have the same moral code as we do, and taking people's money and filing documents erroneously, and maybe identity theft. You never know. So just some tips to help, these guys out here that are startups or sole props. But I know a lot of people got small businesses, and they might not have an accountant. What's some things they should look for when they're looking for an accountant?
That's a very, very good question. First, you need to understand the difference between a certified public accountant and an accountant or bookkeeper. A certified public accountant is licensed by the state. If you're not licensed by the state, you're not a certified public accountant. Okay, so the first thing you want to do if you're looking for a CPA, other than making sure that you're finding that person through references or referrals for people that you trust, that's the primary one. But if you don't know anyone who knows a good CPA, and then you're going, okay, hey, I see that, Joe Blow has a shingle out. Let me try that person because I don't know anybody. Well, first check the license at the state Department of Regulations and see if they're licensed. And if they are, great. Find out from the state if there are any complaints. Okay, if there are not, great. You may have an opportunity. At least you know that they're properly licensed and that they don't have any current complaints. If you're checking for an accountant or a bookkeeper, I'm going to say good luck, because there's such a diverse level of skill set. You can get a bookkeeper that went to a community college for 9 months to learn the difference between debits and credits and be very conscientious and be good about putting your debits and credits in the right place, but it may not maximize your business wealth and limit your liability. But that person may be honest that they're not regulated. Okay, so it's difficult. You have to again go by referrals for that. But for a CPA, a certified public accountant has been trained in doing audits, taxes, and a very deep knowledge of general accounting, where a bookkeeper knows the difference between a debit and credit. And most bookkeepers are very conscientious, but you don't know the level of their knowledge. Now with CPAs, you also want to know whether or not they practice in one industry or multiple industries. And you want to make sure that you use a CPA that is knowledgeable of your industry.
Okay. Well, I learned something else. I didn't know that, but we want to allow people, if they have more questions, they can contact you. Right, I'm gonna post your website. You have an appointment schedule on your website, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And it's Davis Wren CPA, right?
That's correct.
.com. Your business phone number is there as well, and so I highly recommend. Now, my personal accountant. This is my personal accountant, so I use her. So I'm not sending you somebody I don't know. I recommend her, and I'm not getting nothing out of it. It's just we have to do things right. I get a lot of people coming to me and they don't have their taxes done. I can't get you a loan if you don't have your paperwork done. I can't. There's a whole. We have to stop doing things like we used to, and get things documented. Get bank accounts. Get accounting, taxes, bank statements. All these things legit, so when we do go for funding, we can get the funds that we need to grow our businesses, and this is going to be a huge asset in our community. Not just my community, your community, but you became a business owner for a reason. You can't half-step it. You got to do it right all the way across the board. You want to service your clients to the best of their ability and providing the service or products that you do. You need to have your back end. And quite frankly, you're not going to get an accounting degree. You're not going to become a CPA. So, that's not, I'm not going to do it. I'm not. So, but I know a good one, and I trust her, and she's family. What do so I got the best of both worlds. Just comment, on this video. Next week, we'll have another guest. I'm not going to give it away who it is, but it's going to be a good one. And if you want to contact her or schedule an appointment with me for funding, go to businessfundingnow.com. For CPA, daviswrencpa.com. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Demita. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.